Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. I am your host, Maria Gonçalves, and today we have a special guest, Carly Douglas. So, welcome, Carly.
Hi, hello. Hi, Maria. Thank you for bringing me along today. I'm really excited. Very excited to be chatting with you.
Me too. I'm so excited. So, let me share with our listeners a little bit about Carly. So, Carly is a spiritual medium and a psychic who grew up in Aberdeen in Scotland and now lives near Manchester in Northern England. From a young age, Carly was fascinated by the idea of magic. Me too. She always had a feeling there was a world unseen, which her family put down to her very active imagination. She explored her ideas and feelings through reading books on Wiccan and Shamanic practices and beliefs before sneaking out to acquire a deck of tarot cards as a teenager. This interest was pushed away during her early adult life. Then, while she was pregnant with her first child in 2017, Carly began attending a pregnancy yoga class. And during the meditation, she felt a strong pull to reignite her love of the tarot cards. Keen to hone her abilities, she signed up to an online psychic course with Australian medium Denise Litchfield. Did I say that right?
Litchfield,
Okay,
Litchfield. Close
thank
enough.
you. In 2020, where she was introduced to evidential mediumship. At first, she wasn't sure about speaking to dead people all the time, but as soon as she did her first photo reading, she realized there was a whole lot more to this practice and was hooked. Denise introduced Carly to Phil Dykes and Kerry McLeod a few months later, and since then, she has focused on developing her skills as an evidential medium and psychic, and she has been giving private readings professionally for the past 2 years and has recently started demonstrating at local churches. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. That's like one of my goals to do demonstrating at local churches. We'll see. Put it on my vision board for this year. But
Do
welcome,
it.
welcome, Carl. So I am curious. You saw spirit as a young child. What was that like?
So for me, I didn't really see spirit. For me, it was more like I just knew they were there. So for me, I was always having conversations with people in my head. Like I was always making up little conversations. And it just didn't feel like the voices sometimes were mine. It was just I couldn't like hear them the way that you and I are talking now. It wasn't like quite as vivid as that. But I just knew there was somebody else there, and I always had this sort of feeling. It's never scary. It was just I just loved it. I just felt like I had my own special world. But I think for my parents it was quite tricky because I just lived in my own head, I think, for so long. And I would go to school and all the other kids would be playing and I would just be off playing all by myself, running around and skipping with nobody, so it seemed. So I think my parents always found that a little bit kind of strange and always tried to encourage me to fit in. But I was like, hey, why would I want to do that when the world that I have in my head is so much better and so much more exciting? And they get me.
I love it. So, would you consider them imaginary friends? Because you always hear little kids say that.
Yes, well, for years I did. For years I just assumed, I have had imaginary friends. And even when I was a teenager and things, obviously I wasn't sort of running around playing with them, but I was always almost consulting somebody else and sort of just felt like there was so much more going on. And like even I put it down to my imagination, because I think I got told so many times, "Oh, Carly's got an amazing imagination. She's so creative." I thought, well, that's just what it is. That's just who I am. And it took a long time for me to realize that. I wouldn't say it was. I just feel like it was kind of like just a little bit of knowing somebody was there. It was always just knowing someone was there. I wouldn't put it down as like spirit guides. So maybe imaginary friends is the right word or phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like it wasn't just my imagination. And I certainly realized that now doing this kind of work, I've realized, oh, okay, it wasn't just me making it up. I was actually kind of feeling maybe other people. I don't know. It's fascinating though. But I do often wonder because I have a 6-year-old son and I have a 2-year-old daughter. And my son has had imaginary friends since he was about 3 years old, and he's had the same ones, it's the same names, and it does make me question: is that's what he's seeing? Is it his way of communicating with another world, like what I was doing? But I just let him do it because I just think, you know, he's having a great time, and I don't try and influence it or push it, as long as he's happy. And yeah, it's just funny. It's funny to see him doing the same things I did.
Oh, I love that. That is fun. I never had that growing up. I know growing up, I just knew stuff. Like I
Hmm.
always knew stuff. And I remember growing up, like when people would pass away, I was always calm. Like I remember my parents, I was a little kid and we would be at the funeral homes, and whoever was in the most distress, my parents would stick me with those adults. Go calm them down.
Oh wow! Oh my
That's
goodness.
the way. And I just remember always thinking, well, they're in a casket because Portuguese people, like, I don't know about everybody else, but it's always 9 times 10, it's open casket. So, and
Yeah.
we grew up with that. So that was normal to us. And be like,
Okay.
okay, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to calm the adults down. So I always had a sense of peace and calm, but I
Mm.
never really knew what it was. I wouldn't say I had, um, like you, I never had those experiences as a young child. Like it wasn't until I hurt my back when I was 30 years old that all of a sudden I could see, hear, and feel spirit. Until then, this world, I didn't understand. I just knew it didn't bother me going to funerals and being around grief. It was just like, yeah, it's just another part of life, or it could be like part of our culture where it was just it was normal. Like it was normal to bring little children, bring your babies to funerals all the time in open caskets. It's not a big deal. So I grew up like that.
It's a
But
good thing
you're
though. That's
I
a good
do,
thing though, not making a big deal out of it. I think sometimes I think the expectation is to grieve really heavily, isn't it? So no, I quite like that. I like that idea of allowing children to kind of know a little bit about it. I think that's probably a good thing. But no, for me, like I said, I wouldn't have said at that time, oh, I know I'm having an experience with somebody that I can't say. It was just felt so natural. It just felt like I just had I just had a big imagination, and it just felt like I was just using it to the max.
I think that's awesome. So how was it in high school? Like, did your abilities heighten more?
Um, Not really, no. Like I said, I was still the same, where I was still always kind of, I get everybody just thought I was just such a daydreamer. I was always just off in my own little kind of bubble. Was never really listening to people. I was always getting pulled on doodling as well. I still do that though. I do that in Phil and Kerry classes. Don't tell them. I sit and I'm really bad for just picking up a pencil and just doodling. So I was always in trouble for just not. I don't know. I guess I just knew there was more, and there was something going on that I couldn't put into words.
Yeah.
And I just, and when I tried to understand, when I tried to talk about it, people obviously just looked at me like I was crazy. So, so that was quite hard. So yeah, I was very isolated through kind of like my secondary school experience. I felt very alone. I felt very misunderstood. And my parents were always like, you need to try and engage with these people more. Like, try and be friends with them, try and be. And I was like, I don't want to. I was like, I just, like I said earlier, when the world inside your head is so much more exciting and so it feels more alive, why would I go looking for it out there? So it was, yeah, it was quite tough growing up, kind of thing. Just knowing I was different, but not knowing exactly why or what was going on. I think that was the key thing there.
Oh, wow. So then you got into tarot cards. I love, love, love tarot cards. So how did you get into tarot cards?
So for me, like you said in the introduction bit, I was always fascinated by kind of like whenever I saw anything about witchcraft. I remember reading there's these British books called The Worst Witch by Jill Murphy, and I'm actually reading those books to my son now. I found the full collection, so I'm reading those to him now. And I was always fascinated by that. And so I started buying actual books on Wiccan beliefs and on witchcraft practices, and a lot of them mentioned things like tarot cards, and there were good things, and obviously there was some stigma around it as well. um and like I say, my parents were really trying to discourage me at this stage. They were really like, come on now, like please try and fit in with the other children. please, like I could just hear them in my head always going, please be normal, like, and
Yeah.
it just wasn't happening. So one day when I think we were out in town, and I just sort of like, I was like, oh, I'm going to the bookshop, because I knew they sold tarot cards there, and I pretended I was going in to buy a book, and I got like my first deck of tarot cards. um and yeah, I mean, at first I was so like fixated on the book and how to use them, like using the book. But then I realized, like, I just loved using them for fun. I just loved using them and using my own intuition to interpret them. It took me a while to do that, but yeah, my fascination with them kind of went on and off through the years for a long time, from a teenager up until I was kind of 30. I picked them up and put them down again. But I think they're such a great tool. They're such a great tool for anybody thinking of starting learning a little bit about the psychic side of things.
Mhm.
They are a really, really useful
Do,
little tool there.
do you remember the name of the first deck you bought?
Yeah, it was the Rider Waite one. It was the Rider
Yes,
Waite.
that's my first deck too.
They're a classic one. They're such an easy one to. I think there's so many beautiful decks out there. I mean, I did go through a
Mhm.
phase where I collected them, and I had quite a few oracle decks as well for a bit. I had like a little bit of a collection. But I think like the beauty of the Rider Waite is they're so simple. They're easy to kind of that they're easy to learn, and they're easy to kind of the symbology on them, like when you start to kind of
Yeah,
interact with that, because I think sometimes people start out too big with the really complicated decks, and they're beautiful and they're great to use, but I think the Rider Waite one as like a starting point, you just can't go wrong with them. And so many books as well, if you do like reading books on tarot, there's so many books out there, and they tend to be based on the Rider Waite deck. So that for
true.
me is the best starting points ever, be the Rider Waite deck. It's good.
I love that deck. And then because I teach it, so I tell my students, start with that deck, because I find that's a foundation deck. Because once
Mhm.
you get used to that deck, the imagery, the symbols, then you can read any tarot deck.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that's why I think it's better to have that one first. And then you go nuts. There's so many apple cards, there's so many beautiful, beautiful decks out there. But yeah, I always say like start out with the Rider Waite one whenever anybody asks me.
I find, so now I'm just curious, how many decks do you have?
I don't actually have, all I have now are my Rider Waite deck,
Yeah.
and I don't have any other tarot decks. And I've got, this was my first ever Oracle deck. I've got it here just for, so I'll read it because I know it's a podcast as well. So I don't know if you
Earth
want to see it.
magic.
It's Earth Magic, and it's by Stephen D. Farmer. Apparently, he's got
Oh,
quite a few Oracle decks, but this one I love it because it's so beautiful, the images. And again, it's quite a simple deck. It's not really like loads of really fancy, intricate designs, but they are really beautiful. So when I had a clear out a while ago, and I was like, I just don't need my decks anymore, that was the one I held on to, and my Rider Waite one, which I have in a little bag by my bed.
oh, I love it. I I have a lot. Like, I think I have over
How many do you have?
100 plus.
100. Oh,
Not just tarot, oracle, affirmations, and then
yeah.
people gift them to me. I will get, because I just love cards. I think the reason I love them too is I love the artwork. Fall in love
Yes.
with the artwork, and then I need to know more about the artist. Like in high school, I was so into art, and I one of my favorite things to do was sketch. So I always
Yeah.
sketched growing up. I loved it, and I loved to sketch people's faces. That was like my favorite thing to do. And then I remember growing up and in high school, we would go to the art galleries. So I love looking at art and
Mhm.
then learning about, well, what's their story? How did they come up with that picture? What was their background? So that I always find super fascinating, because that deck didn't just like appear one day, like the amount of work that went in and the mindset of that artist. So I find that whole, I love stories. I
It
love
is, yeah, I'm exactly the same as you, Maria. I'm exactly the same. I love it, and I'm like you, I love art. I'm really, really into my art and drawing and painting.
yeah,
And so I think that is the big attraction. And when I see because like I said, I don't tend to use them now, especially when I'm doing readings. I don't actually
yeah.
use them. I just use them for myself every now and again. I just couldn't, when I was getting rid of all my decks, I just couldn't get rid of those two because it was my first tarot deck. and my first oracle deck, and I was like, I just can't part with them because they were what started me on this journey, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so I was just kind of like, no, I can't get rid of them. So I had to hold on to them. But like you, I would see like some really beautiful pictures, and I would be like, oh, I need that. I just wanted to see it. And I'd even just sit there and just flick through the deck sometimes, just looking at the images and
Yeah.
just seeing emotions I got from just looking at a picture. It's, you know, they are. I think there's so much creativity that goes into oracle and tarot decks. So yeah, I absolutely love them.
The artist, and then I find, this is for me because I'm an addict, there are certain decks that I want and they don't come to Canada, but I will have friends in those countries and I will message them. And I'll be like, I see this deck is in your country. Can you please buy it for me? I will send you the money for the whole deck because they don't ship to Canada. So I
And
have been known to do that in the past
I
when I
don't blame you.
really
I
want
don't
a
blame you.
deck because I get so addicted. So then so you did tarot and I love the psychic because I just think it's super fun. And I think people should have
It is.
fun with the psychic because it's their intuition. So learn to develop it because it's your inner voice, right?
I know, yeah, and I think as well, like I think psychic can be so helpful and so healing as well. A really good psychic reading, you know, it's not about, and so many people come into it are kind of hoping that it's going to be like predicting the future and things like that. And it's like, no, it's about giving you the insight, you know, it's about giving, and or this is the other one, they want to be told what to do, like they want to be told what their sole purpose is. And it's like, and obviously, like I would love somebody to show up and just tell me what to do all the time. That would be great. But it's to give other people, when you're receiving a reading, it's to get that insight into yourself, and you can find that journey on your own. For me, when I give somebody a reading, I want them to realize I have the power to do this. I can do this. I have my own intuition. I knew all along, you know, what I
Yeah.
was doing. I sound like Linda the Good Witch. I had the power all along. But that's what it is, though. That's what, for me, doing a good
Yeah.
psychic reading, when I give somebody a psychic reading, that's how I want them to feel. I want them to come away thinking, do you know what? Actually, that's amazing. I didn't realize that I already knew that. I could already do that. I already have that insight. And it's for me, I think psychic readings are when done well, can just be so helpful to people. They can provide so much healing and so much help. So yeah, I love the psychic. I do love doing psychic readings as well.
I love the psychic, and I'm with you. It's about empowering the people
Yes,
and it'd be
that's a good
like
word, empowering.
empowering them because you can see different, I guess, like their choices and different ways to go. But at the end of the
Oh yeah.
day, it has to feel right for them because you never want to take people's power away. But now that I say that, can you see into your own future? Now I'm just curious. Do you get those psychic hits where you're like, oh, that's what's up?
I sometimes feel like a little bit of a pull, like I sort of
Yeah.
know where this is going, kind of thing. And I sometimes, like, I remember when I started thinking about doing church services, for example, I was really like, oh, I don't know, oh, I don't know, I don't. But I could feel that kind of like there was something inside me wanted to do it, but there
Yeah.
was a part of my head that just had all this self doubt. And within, and it was really funny because I think I did put out a little thought to the spirit world of, you know, if this is for me, then it'll happen. I'm not going to attach myself either way. If this is for me, it'll happen. And within 24 hours, I think I had 3 offers from like
Oh,
3 different church. I had 3 different, just I don't even, one of them, I don't even know how they got my details, but I just had a message on my phone of like, well, you know, oh, we've seen you at an open circle at such and such a place. Would you come to us? And I was like, oh my goodness. So I've realized that I think deep down, I wouldn't say I get like a proper hit on I know where this is going, but I sort of feel that pull, like,
yeah.
oh, I think I know where this is going. Like I can feel when I feel like when I'm onto something, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Feel
Oh, I
like
like that.
I'm on the right path, and I feel like I know where I know where I'm heading.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I used to get, which is weird, on the first day, like clockwork of every single month, I knew how that month was going to be.
Hmm.
So I would see images. So if I saw a tornado is the tower card for me. So if I saw
Ah,
like a
yes.
big tornado, an image, all of a sudden, it was like, heads up, it's going to be a crazy 30 days. There's going to
World's
be
gonna
a
be
lot of,
turned upside down.
yeah. And then other days, and then and it was, I don't know how many years this happened. But it was always on the first. It was weird. I meditate and I get an image for how that, it's almost like I needed to know. And now I don't need to know. So I don't get that anymore. I kind of miss it. So now it's
Yeah.
just that nudge and
Hmm.
that trusting. Because like I went away on vacation, that was like a nudge. I was going to go away, but I didn't know where. I didn't know how. And people were like, oh, like, where are you going? Can we come with you? I go, I don't even know where I'm going. I just
Haven't decided
know.
yet.
I
But
just know.
it's interesting you said that though, because I used to, when I first started out, like I said, I started out doing readings with my tarot decks and my oracle decks, and I used to do readings for people where I would send them like a picture of like their, for like say like a 3 month forecast, and this is how
Yeah.
their month's going to be. And you know, and a lot of people did say they found it helpful, they found it insightful, but for me, it was always a little bit hit and miss, and it was sometimes it could feel a little bit vague. Even when I was doing it, I just wasn't satisfied doing it, and I just was like, I don't feel like this is the right thing to do. I don't feel like this is, you know. And this was when I first started doing public. I think this was 2018 when I used to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like trying to go back in time, and I would, you know. So I used to do that, but it just didn't feel right to me, and I just felt like I want to be able to use this skill. I want to be able to use this intuition, but I don't feel I'm applying it in the right way. And that
Yeah.
was when I got in touch with Denise Litchfield. And but it's funny how you said as well. Sorry, going back to what you were on about, where you kind of got the hit for the month. I would always get a card out at the beginning of the month, and I always found it did work. It would give me a few insights into what how the month was going to be. I tend to not do it anymore, but I did used to for a long time. But it's great to practice. It's great when you're starting out as well to start trusting that intuition. It teaches you, I think, to trust your own gut instinct. So I
Yeah.
actually think it's a really nice way to start out is by doing that, because you learn actually, do you know what? I'm onto something here.
That's true. And then I found for me, clairvoyantly, like the images, uh, that's the way spirit, I would see tarot cards around people.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't
Oh, wow.
have tarot cards in front of me, and all of a sudden there'd be a situation I'm in, and I would see like, I don't know, the Hermit or the Star card, and I'd be like, okay, this is gonna be okay, this is gonna be okay. And then when I would meditate and I would ask a question or something to the spirit world, I would see an image of a tarot card. I'd be like, okay, I know what that means. And when I meditate, I see stuff in color. And I think that's, well, I don't know, but a lot of it had to do with like playing with the cards and the images and stuff, because you don't walk around with your cards 24/7. But this is a long time ago. I think this is like 15 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, and I have my cards. But yeah, I started seeing just images, just be like, heads up, tornado coming, the tower card, be like, okay, we're not going to go that route. This seems like a bad decision all of a sudden. Because all what would happen is like if you were physically in front of me and we were talking and we were trying to figure out to do something, I would see the card between the both of us.
Wow.
Like it would
Cool.
just show up like that big in front of us. And if it was the tower card, it'd be like, okay, I don't think I want to do this.
Maybe not. Oh, I like that. No, I do like that. But
I-
yeah, for me, I was doing those types of readings and I just didn't feel fulfilled. I wasn't
yeah.
happy with how it was going, and I just knew I wanted more. So that was when I reached out to Denise Litchfield. I'd randomly come across her Facebook page. She used to have a Facebook group
Yeah.
called Psychic Playground, and it was mostly Australians, but everyone was lovely. And you know, I would practice my card pulls and things. And she did a 6 week course, which was I can't remember what she called it now. Oh, I don't know. But we would do each week. We would do like something on the aura. Then we would
Yeah.
do you know, like psychic readings, and we did a little bit on cards. And on one of the weeks was on mediumship. And I remember because it was really funny how it happened actually. So I signed up for this in 2020. And I remember after the first week, because it was Australia, it was 1 o'clock in the morning for me that I had to
Oh,
like sit there through this class. And I remember after the first week saying to my husband, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to do this 2 hour class. And then by the time I get to bed, then I have to be up in the morning with the baby. Oscar was still quite young. He was about 2 years old at this time. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to cope. And then lockdown hit. So my husband and I couldn't go to work. So it was like, oh, this is actually really helpful. This actually really benefits me. So so that happened. But I remember one week she was doing mediumship, and I was like, oh, do I really want to do mediumship? I'm not a medium. Don't think it's really going to be my thing. But a part of me was just like, no, do you know what? I paid for the course. I'm going to go along. So I went along to this one class that she did on the mediumship, and it was doing a photo reading, and she put up a photo of somebody she knew who'd passed a spirit. As soon as I looked at the picture, it was so strange. It's like I instinctively knew how to do it, because I didn't read the picture. I knew to kind of not look too much at the person in front of me. I just glanced, and then I just felt myself pull away to like inside my soul. I could feel it. It was like from my stomach. You know how people talk about gut instinct and that? And for me, that was where it all happened. I just suddenly just had this feeling. And it was beautiful. I just don't think I've ever, it's really hard to put into words. I'm going to do my best. I don't think I've ever felt so connected to anything or anyone. And it was just that sudden realization of, oh my gosh, I can feel this person. I can't hear them or see them standing in front of me, but I know they are there. And we could have this little interaction, and so we had to get as much evidence as we could about this person. And I wasn't like the star of the class by any means, but I got one or two good little memories, really funny little memories, and I still remember it really well now. And it just lit me up from within. I honestly just felt so lit up. It was amazing. And yeah, after that, I was like, okay, I need more of this. I was like, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. And Denise was really helpful and really supportive. And I carried on doing some of her classes, but I was struggling with the time difference. And that's when she said to me, like, oh, she's like, you want to check out these two British mediums, go on to like We Don't Die, Sandra Champlain, and you can see them. They do classes, Philip Dykes and Kerry McLeod. And she was like, I think they're your sort of people, I think was the word she used. So I was like, okay. I don't know what that means. Is it just because they're British? So I remember logging on to like the Sunday gathering. They're absolutely brilliant. I went on to the Sunday gathering, and I watched, and I still remember it now. I'd never seen a demonstration of mediumship before. It was a really new world to me. I was still very much learning. And I saw Kerry was doing the demonstration the first week that I went to the Sunday gathering. It was just amazing to watch her work. I just could feel the story coming to life. I could, and there were like one or two bits where she got a no, or it was a little bit, but just watching her work through it, and just watching how assured she was and how she knew she had somebody, and it was just like, oh, it's amazing. And I just that was it. Then I signed up to their classes, and they've helped me so much in the way that I work, in the way that I want to be. They've made me realize as well. I think this is the biggest thing for me with learning with them, is that they made me realize the medium that I want to be. And that's a really big thing for me.
That is amazing. I was sitting here trying to think, when did I meet them? And then I remember a few years ago, they came to Canada and they were doing a demonstration.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to see, I don't know who they are. I had heard Phil studied with Paul Jacobs. Oh, that's it. I was in a mentorship with Paul Jacobs online, and I had heard Phil studied with Paul Jacobs, and I love Paul Jacobs.
I did a couple of workshops with him, actually. Denise, she recommended Paul to me as well. She'd said like he's, his clairvoyance class. So I think I did his clairvoyance and his color workshop before I went to Phil and Kerry. And yeah, I have so much respect for him. I think his knowledge and his understanding of the spirit world.
Yeah, I love him. I couldn't get relationships.
Good. Very good tutor.
Yeah, I couldn't get relationships at the end of that year. I got every relationship. I was like, yes.
Works.
He pushes you. And I love teachers that, I don't know, he's just my kind of teacher. So then I found out like that Phil had studied with him at one point. And I told a friend, because we had to drive an hour to where they were, and I was like, "Oh, I heard these UK mediums are here, and I heard he studied with Paul Jacobs, and I love Paul Jacobs, so let's go see." Because we were in that space of, we're developing our mediumship, but then we're also curious, like, how do you do demonstrations? So we would go out, just for fun, to see different local mediums, and some that would come from the UK, and to just watch them work. And when I saw him and Kerry, like, it touched my heart. There wasn't a dry tear in the church. Like, it
Oh,
was just amazing the way they brought through the evidence. And then the following year, because I ended up signing up for the newsletter for the church that they were at, then I saw the newsletter and said, "Oh, they're coming to Canada for a 5-day training." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, I gotta go. I gotta train with them." So
oh,
that was last summer, and then I ended up in their progressive group,
mm,
and now they're coming back, so I will see them again at the end of this month for more training. I absolutely love them, and I know they have gotten my mediumship to another level that I didn't even think was possible, because they
yeah.
see what we can't see in ourselves, right?
You do, yeah. And I think what I love about them, so for me, I was always convinced, oh, I'm going to be the private. The demonstrating is not for me. I couldn't go to a church and stand up in front of people or do demonstration style. That's not me. I was really kind of that wouldn't be my scene. And I thought I was going to be just doing the private sittings, and that was fine. I was absolutely okay with that. And I think Phil and Kerry made me realize that you don't have to be a certain way to be a medium who demonstrates. You don't have to, I think I had all these, and they talk about this a lot because what I love about them as well is they bring all these coaching methods into the mediumship. They are
Mhm.
certified coaches, and it just helps you understand yourself in a way that helps you with your mediumship. And they made me realize that actually I don't have to be a certain way to be a medium or a psychic. I don't have to change everything about who I am. I can still be me. I'm a more I would say when I demonstrate, I'm a more polished version of me. I'm a little bit more a bit more presentable and a bit more, I'm a little bit more careful with how I'm phrasing things. I can still be myself. I can still enjoy it. I can still have a great time. I can still, so for me that's a great thing. And one of the things I love about that kind of coaching method and encouraging their students to do that personal development, it is hard. It's very hard.
Yes.
As we've all had tears and emotional times in classes. So, but when you think about it, if you're going to connect with a soul, if you're going to connect with whether it's psychically or whether it's with somebody from the spirit world, you need to be able to be vulnerable with yourself. You need to feel comfortable with yourself to be able to let that person in, whether, especially when you're working mediumistically, you need to be able to feel comfortable with maybe being vulnerable or feeling sensitive. And I think both of them have made me realize that's okay to be that way. I got so much
Yeah.
grief in school for being a very sensitive person. I was very emotional, and I was very, and my parents as well, or I have lovely parents, but I think they always kind of used words like hypersensitive, and I always felt a little misunderstood, but they actually helped me to see that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's okay to be sensitive. It's and in when you're working mediumistically or psychically, it's like a superpower
It
to be
is.
sensitive. It helps so much. So I owe a lot of what I do today and the way I work to Phil and Kerry. They're brilliant as tutors. They're absolutely fantastic.
I agree. I totally agree with you. Because they are amazing. I was just thinking here for myself, because I remember being super sensitive as a kid, and then at one point I ended up becoming a Reiki master. So then you even become more sensitive, like as a healer. And I needed to learn everything about healing, and I got really sensitive. And then I remember, yeah, clear sentience, so super sensing everything. And I remember going through a point in my life where stuff was very challenging for me. So
Mhm.
I shut down that feeling clear. And then I remember, because I shut that down, the clear audience came back. Like I would
Ah,
just
right.
hear stuff like, "Oh, why am I hearing that?" Because I needed to shut that down, just because my life was very challenging. So I was on sensitivity overload, and it was kind of like a
Mm.
survival mechanism for me. So I shut that down. And then I do remember in training last year with Phil and Kerry, and I had to do a reading in class, and I just like really struggled with the psychic, and it was like about relationships and stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to feel. And then Phil's like talking to me, and there goes the coaching, right? And it's like, oh, this is so much, Phil. This is so much feeling. And then it became a joke with me and my friend. She's like, so how are you doing in the feeling? You okay with feeling today? I was like, oh my God, I don't know that I can feel so much. Now I'm okay. But I think it's
Yeah.
interesting within our own development, depending on where we are within our lives, because that is one of the things that they do talk about is personal development. And so
Yeah.
do many other tutors talk about that personal development side,
Yeah.
because that does reflect back into your mediumship.
It certainly does.
Okay, so I want to share this story, and I don't know if you've had this experience, or maybe you've heard these stories where, because I know I was scared of my mediumship because I would hear people say that spirit is always around you and they never leave you alone. I actually, okay, so in the beginning of my mediumship, I went to a medium, a local medium. I didn't know her. Somebody said, go to her, go to her. I didn't know what I was doing. So this is what she told me. She's like, hey, Maria, yeah, you can sense spirit. Got to remember, it's beginning my mediumship. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm actually going to mediums to say, hey, can you make them stop talking to me? Can you make this go away? So she put the fear of God into me, literally. And she'd be like, yes, you can hear spirit, but don't worry. What did she say? Like the devil, the evil ones, as your light shines brighter, they'll possess you, they'll take over, they'll be around you 24/7. So I know
Wow.
that's, and yeah, so I slept in the fetal position for a year because I was terrified the demons were going to come get me. I don't
Oh
know where I thought
no.
they were going to take me,
Oh,
but
it's awful.
don't know what you don't know, because this wasn't my world and I didn't know. And people are like, well, she calls herself a medium. So grateful for the mentors we have in our life, like Phil and Kerry, Paul Jacobs, and all those incredible mentors. Because there are people out there that are teaching and don't know what they're doing and just
Yeah, they're
scaring
making it
people.
very fear-based and making it very, oh, protection all the time. They're on about protection. And I'm like, you don't need it. Yes, spirit is around you all the time.
Yeah.
Spirit world is always there, but it's not in a malicious sense. They're there to love and support you. And as somebody told me once, because I was like, oh my gosh, can they see me when I'm in the shower?
Yes.
Because I'm having a shower before class. This happened a couple of years ago, especially when I was first starting out. I would sometimes get a little bit of a sense of the person that I might be working with just before I went into class. And I'd be in the shower and I'd be able to feel somebody coming in. And I was like, oh my gosh, are they watching me shower? And I think it was Phil and Kerry reassured me with like, no, they're drawn towards your light. It's your soul. And when you're working, your soul gets better. That's why they're coming in. Like, but they're always around you, but it's not for any kind of they're trying to hijack you or they're spying on you. It's nothing like that. They were like, it's not that at all. They just they are there, but it's in a supportive, loving way. And the spirit world is love. I think that's what we sometimes forget. It's your intention. It's as
It
pure.
is.
You're going into that. Your intention's pure. It's not gonna. You're not gonna have any bad. And I have had, especially in the beginning. I remember if I had a contact that was very emotional, or maybe the person in spirit, there's memories there that they were very angry. During the reading, I can feel their anger. I can
Mhm.
feel like this, or the upset or the grief, and I'd have all these emotions. But once you voice them, they go away. Once you
Yeah.
understand, okay,
Mhm.
this person's bringing in anger. Why are they angry? As soon as you take that time to understand that person coming through in spirit, you can feel that anger ebb away. It's
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing, and I really hope that more people start coming more to that understanding of we don't need to be protected. We don't need to be scared of devils or anything like that. They're not there. It's just, it's the spirit world is just love. It's, you know, it's that universal force. It's that universal love. There's nothing bad about that. So
Oh, I absolutely agree. So for people that are starting out on their mediumship journey, because I know I was scared just because I didn't understand it, what do you recommend for them? Let's get rid of all that fear-based stuff they may have heard.
definitely that's definitely the start. For me, starting out on your journey, I think it's such a good idea to find fantastic tutors who, I think, ideally watch them work first, see if you can catch them on like a demonstration, or even just have a reading with them and make sure, you know, you like their style, like the way they
Mhm.
go. It shouldn't be all ominous or any negativity. You know, if that's the feeling you're getting, then they're not doing their job properly. So finding those good tutors, I think, is an absolute must. But being willing to explore yourself as well. I think, like for me,
Mhm.
it's just been attending. I know Paul Jacobs. I haven't seen him do any lately, but he used to do a lot of talks on the spirit world, on mediumship, and just attending those talks. They were normally
Yeah,
free, I think, or just like a few pounds donation to whatever charity he was doing them on behalf of. It was really
yeah.
interesting to just go along and watch. And even now, I still watch. One of my favorite mediums is Mavis Patilla. I
Oh,
absolutely love her, and it was her book Droplets of God actually that made me understand more about what mediumship is really all about. So that's a book I recommend. Droplets of God. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's about Mavis Patilla and her life as a medium. Um, but her videos are on YouTube, and I still go back and watch like some of the talks and things because she just speaks of the spirit world. She speaks about them like they're friends. That's what I
yeah.
love about her when I hear her talk about them, and that's what they are. They're our friends and loved ones. So yeah, it's about just being open-minded, going into it with an open mind, an open heart, and kind of ready to enjoy the roller coaster as well, because it does get, I know I actually gave up for a while when I was pregnant with my second child, with my daughter Daisy. I was going through a really hard time. Where we were living wasn't an ideal situation, and then I found out that on one of the scans that I had, that there was potentially going to be something wrong with her, maybe.
Mhm.
So I was in a really bad place, and then trying to go and do readings as well. As we talked about before, you know, you do go into a very sensitive space when you're doing readings. So for me, I just wasn't in the right mindset, so I took a break from it. And I feel like it was the right thing to do. I feel like it was good for me to have those few months, but I missed it so much. And it wasn't a case of, oh, the spirit world are badgering me to come back. They're not leaving me alone. It was just that feeling of like, you know, when you walk out of a room and you like shut the door and you think, oh, what I needed was back in that room. Like it's
Yeah.
that weird little pull of like, oh, should I go back? I don't, was there something? And that was the pull that I was experiencing. I just kept feeling like I'm not done. I'm not done with my mediumship. So after Daisy was born, and she was absolutely fine as well. There was nothing wrong with her. She was fine. She's a perfect, high-spirited little girl now who's 2 years old. Um, it
Oh,
was she's adorable, but she's very hard work at the minute. Terrible twos. But it just it was good to get back into. And like I say, I recognize myself when I'm feeling a little bit sensitive, but I just feel like it does help me. It's helped me to understand myself better doing this work. And yeah, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I think I'm in it for the long haul now. So
I think we're both in it for the long haul.
I think we are, Maria. We are definitely both in it for the long haul now.
I love it. And I find too, for people that are learning mediumship, it's your loved ones. You just can't touch their physical body, but
Yeah,
it's them. So once
it
you
is.
start shifting your mind, recognizing they're still alive, like they're still talking, I think that gets rid of the fear, because I think the fear is
Yes.
too, it's us and them. Like there's a separation. It's like, no, it's us and us. Like we're all together, we're
Yes.
family.
It's like, what are they? Who are they? And it's like, they're not anything mysterious. It's literally, it's the people you know and love. That's who's around you. That's who's wanting to communicate when you're doing a reading for somebody else. It's their loved ones, it's their dad, it's their mum, it's their child. That's who wants to come forward and talk. And you know, yes, obviously we do encounter people who have maybe not made the best life decisions when they were here, and maybe there's themselves and the person who's having the reading might not have been the best relationship, but often when they come forward, they acknowledge that, they understand, they've had, when they go to the spirit world, they get that chance to have that insight, and they
Mhm.
realize. And I know I've done 1 or 2 readings where we've gone through it, and we've been able to identify that they weren't the kindest person, but often they just want to come in and they want to acknowledge that. And quite often as well, they want to apologize. And it's giving them that chance to be able to say, look, I'm still learning. I'm still on my learning journey, even though I physically am no longer in this world.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I'm still making that journey. And I think that's one of my favorite things about it. And I lost, very sadly, my dad last year. And that has actually been a really big turning point for me, because he was quite a character. He was he was lovely, but he maybe didn't make the best life choices at times. And a couple of times when people have been practicing with me, they've had him as a communicator. And it's interesting to see he's still him. He's still very much him. I know immediately when people start to talk about him, I'm like, oh yeah, you've got my dad. But I also know that he's trying to kind of he's still learning, he's still on that journey, and I can see that in the ways he's come through. And it's amazing to see that. And for me, that's what it's about, and that's what I love about doing readings, is that I can work with these individuals, because they're still people. They're not balls of energy, they're not
Yeah.
like little spooky ghosts. It's a
Yeah.
real life person with emotions and thoughts and feelings and memories, some great, some not so great. And
Yeah.
being able to acknowledge that, for me, that takes away the fear as well, is knowing that it's a person. It's only a
Yeah.
person who just has something to say. And we're giving them that voice. And I think that's the magic right there. That's the magic that we were all looking for when we were young.
That
There
is the magic. I remember one of my tutors, I can't remember who it was, and she used to say a mediumship reading is like having a cup of tea with your friend.
we
So if you
Yeah.
think of it that way, like we're just having a cup of tea. And what do you do when you have a cup of tea? You talk about memories, stories, you pass messages, just like having a cup of tea with a friend. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, like when she said that, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly, actually. I've not heard that expression before, but yeah, it is. When you're sat there with the medium, if you're being a recipient, you're sat there with the medium, that's literally all they're doing, is they're just bringing in what your loved one wants to talk about to you. If they want to talk about memories, if they want to talk about physical things that are still here, stuff that's going on in the family as well. That's all
Yeah.
they want to do, is just have a catch up. And I think that's lovely. But I think it's always important to remind people as well. And I remember saying this to somebody once when I was doing a reading, and they were like, can you tell them that I love them? Can you tell them this? And I was like, you can tell them. You can tell them anytime you want, because they're around you. They're always around you.
Yeah.
Even if you aren't sure if they're there, if you put the thought out to them, if you're thinking of them, or when a random memory pops into your head, that's always my favorite one. If a random memory or a song pops into your head and it makes you think of a specific person, that's their way of saying, I'm with you. I'm right there. I'm right there saying hi, in the only way that they can. So I always say to people, yeah, talk to your loved ones, tell them,
Yeah.
write them a letter. I did that actually after my dad passed. I had a lot of mixed emotions about my dad passing, and I wrote him a couple of letters. Obviously he's in the spirit, and I know he can hear my thoughts, but putting those thoughts down in paper, that really helped me. It was a really cathartic experience, I guess. So I always encourage people, talk to them, write them letters, because they can still hear you, and it helps you as well to process, helps you.
Oh, I love that. I, you know what? I have enjoyed our time together because we're coming to a close. And that was just so beautiful. So, if people want to reach out to you for a reading, how would they do that?
So I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm on under Carly Douglas, Spiritual Medium and Psychic. So it's Carly with a K as well, because
Okay.
my dad filled in the birth certificate, and apparently my mum always says he didn't know how to spell Carly. So yeah, it's Carly with a K, Douglas, spiritual medium and psychic. If you drop me a message on there, and we can book in. I'm on England, I'm in the UK, but I always try to be a little bit flexible with my times because I know there's people from all over the world, and we do it over Zoom. And yeah, you just have to click on the message. But I am looking at, I know we were talking very briefly earlier about booking systems, and hopefully I have that in
Yes.
place. But until then, drop me a message, and I'm always happy to try and work with you.
Fantastic. And I will have her Facebook link for everybody. So it'll be easier for you guys. Just click on it and it will take you directly to Carly's Facebook page. So I just want to say thank you for spending this time with us. I've absolutely loved hanging out with you. So if you guys want to get a reading from her, check her out, send her an email. So thank you so
I
much
would
for
love that. Thank you so much, Maria. We've had such a good chat today. It's been really good fun. It's been really good. I think we knew it was going to be fun, us two together having a talk.
yes,
So
yes. It
yeah,
has
I've
to
enjoyed.
be fun. We set that intention to the spirit world. Today's podcast is going to be fun. I hope you guys all enjoyed those stories. If you can relate with them or you have any questions for us, just message Carly or myself because we would love to hear from all of you. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.